Welcome to Everything Mental Health with your hosts, Chris Weeks and Maureen Edwards.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, Maureen.
It's good to talk to you again today.
It is. How are you?
I'm good. And just off camera, we were discussing the nature of recovery and what is out there for people when they have come through a treatment program or a recovery house of some sort, or they might be in a 12-step program and feel like they're making some headway. And just sort of those next stage, or sometimes they're called second stage supports, and the availability of them. And I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I think it's a much needed topic to take a look at, because in terms of people leaving the treatment center or the recovery house, the cases of people lapsing is still quite high. I mean, it's significantly high, and a number of people have said to me, a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're kind of in a bit of a bubble when in a center, and then you're coming back to the real world, let's say, of the circumstance that you were in before, quite possibly before you left. And that right, that unless there's some supports in place, some very strong supports in place, that can be very daunting.
I remember a few years back, probably about 7 years back, I was looking at statistics. And one of the things that caught my eye when I was reading about this treatment program was that there was a 5% success rate over 5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was really kind of discouraging. And it was like, well, what's going on? Why are people relapsing within the first 5 years? Something must not be right. And I see it all the time in my practice as well. People will go to a treatment center. They'll do really, really well. They'll come back a brand new person. They'll have hope. They'll have dreams. They'll have coping skills. They'll have a new way of thinking about life. And then there's something that seems to happen over the next 3 to 6 months. So many of them will fall off and back right into addiction.
Well, there's a biological component to this as well. If you sort of, I was reading about the sort of parts of the brain that contribute to not only addiction but relapses as well, and yes, we've heard about the kind of hippocampus and the amygdala, and the just the way that they operate, either before, during, or after addiction. But I was also reading about this part of the brain called the dorsolateral striatum that also contributes to habit forming, and that's the habit of the way that you get out of bed, the habit of brushing your teeth, the habit of which leg goes into the pants first when you're getting dressed, or which arm goes into the shirt, or these sorts of things, like these habits that we get into to the point where we don't even think about them any longer. And this dorsolateral striatum has no judgment in terms of these habits that we develop. And so when we are in the throes of addiction, there's another habit that we are engaged in. And when we move to a place of recovery, when we're looking into the possibility of recovery, this part of the brain is still active in terms of its having integrated a variety of all kinds of habits. And so it's interesting that in the throes of addiction, for example, a lot of the self-care habits kind of seem to sort of fall off. And in recovery, it's one of the things that we'll talk about a lot in terms of self-care. But still, this part of the brain is now going, well, remember that thing that we used to do, remember that? And it was kind of whispering almost, and it's not judging, it's just saying, well, can't remember last time you did that thing or whatever else. And then sometimes the impulse becomes so strong that it bypasses the prefrontal cortex, and this is when people wake up, say the next day, and they say they don't know what happened, but there's a needle beside them or a bottle.